all this. First of all, we're going to repeat just about everything from last year. We're going to do that for a couple of reasons. One, you didn't get it last year, okay, so I have to tell you again. No, you did. But the second thing, somebody just said, I wasn't here last year. I understand we've had a lot of turnover in various places. So a lot of you, communication, a lot of you are seeing me for the first time, so you're going to get all that, kind of a best of, and we'll bring all of that back in. And we'll throw in probably about 5 exercises during this time, because I'm tired, like the boss says, you know, the daylight savings time and all, we had to set the clock ahead about 12 hours and such, and I'm probably getting that wrong. So I'm going to make you work around that. So we'll do exercises in individual and team communication. And then we'll give you some hints on how to deal with difficult interactions, usually translated as difficult patrons, but not just difficult patrons, what? Each other? Yeah. No, that can't be. That can't be. First obnoxious sip. Bureaucrat in another system. I do research. I'm a clinician, so I do psychotherapy, such like that, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? That's not what's important. The point is, I'm exceptional at about 3 things, or 2 things. I think this is one of them. Y'all are going to be the judge by the end of the day. But I'm rotten at a couple of things. I'm rotten, and I need significant improvement, and it makes me just like you. And I want all of you to bring your minds together for today in that vein. You can't teach, you can't learn. In the staff development day, I can't teach, you can't learn unless you bring the learner's mind in here. Will you agree with me with that one? If you think you have it slick, if you think you're the best communicator in the whole United States, have some coffee and move on. But if you feel like me, that you always have something to improve, then we have a match. And if during, not just my 2 hours with you, but for the whole day, if you see something to grab onto, that's what I want you to do. Say, I can fill a gap here. I can learn to go from here to there. And that's what's important, to bring your mind in. And patron that always knocks up my stomach. Why can't I do that? That's the one I'd like you to grab something here that you can move beyond with. Okay? Not the one that once in a lifetime thing, but the one like that. Now, as I tell you, I'm a victim of training. Most training is mediocre. Most training is mediocre. And I've done a ton of it. It's not this. I've been doing this since I was born, this particular session and group here. And it's exceptional training here. But most of it, you get the book, you get the handout, and that's it. It stays at that. We don't want that. We want to give you something that you can use. I went to the boss and said, boss, would you come sit up here so I make sure you're paying attention while I'm talking today? He'd probably do it to comply, but he wouldn't like it. He wouldn't like it. Why? Because we all are oppositional kids in our own right. We like control. We like to do the same thing. All right, we like to stay where we are. But here's my 2 rules. Gus's rules. Get miserable on something you want to change, because otherwise you're not going to change it. If you're not miserable enough in it, you're not going to change it. Who needs to lose weight? Come on, you brave people. Who's going to not eat the cookies? One in the back, good. Chronically causes a problem in our relationship, and yet we don't change. Why? Because we're not miserable enough in it. We haven't popped off the ground. The addictionologists know this very well, don't they? In trying to recover from dope and alcohol and such, that you have to kind of hit rock bottom. I think that's the way people change in general. You go along, you know what to do, you're an intelligent being, and yet you don't do it until it gets bad enough. So I suggest you think, what do I want to change? What am I bad enough? What's bad enough and worth changing? Then you'll meet my first rule, to get miserable, tongue-in-cheek, but to say, I'm going to flip that switch. I'm going to try something different in my communication, because we're not perfect. Your best friend is your worst enemy is my second rule. Because when you try to lose weight, good example, the very first thing your best friend does, because they're around you, what do? They get a big old giant donut as big as a Buick, you shove it in your face, they go, eat, eat, you gotta put some flesh in the bones, you're not looking well. Wait, I took off an ounce, right? Throw a balloon and I'm not looking well? But exactly, they feed you. They give you the cigarette. They try to bait you into saying it the same old way. communicate. That patron will, if you try to change, double their efforts to get you to stay where you are. Because that's where humans are, because they don't want you to change either, because it scares them to death. They don't know how to dance with you. Your loved one, if you try to do something a little bit different, will try to get you to stay the same, because they know, well, who is this? Who is this? And yet, so you have to be persistent. Ground rules exercise. I need a scribe. I need someone with excellent penmanship. Oh, look. Yeah. Who I just want you to write on the board. Anybody. Think about how we're going to communicate before we figure out what we're going to communicate and such. And we're going to do a brainstorming. Keep brainstorming in mind. Brainstorming is a way to get out the best ideas that you have through each other, whether you're trying to decide on a particular project, or you're trying to decide what to do for a 5-year plan or 1-year plan, or you're trying to decide what are we going to do about this crisis we have today. So what I want to go around the room, it's a big room, but we're going to go around the room, and each person I'm going to point to, and I want you to say 1 or 2 words. That'll be difficult for about 3 of you. 1 or 2 words only about how you want to communicate today. If you're the one saying it, often you'll say something stupid. You'll say something silly. What we think is encouraging sometimes with folks is misread often by others. When you're the person who says it, you often misread it. When you're the person doing it, it seems like no big deal and such. I want you to keep that in mind as you talk with each other, as you talk with patrons, as you talk at home, that little things from you mean a lot. Empathetic grunts that you give can mean various things around that. So, around ground rules, around communication. So, as you talk with each other. By the way, I had some people that passed. What other ground rules do we want? I'd like to go around again. Oh, you can go around again? Move it on. Come on, you're dying here. You're going down. Come on. No, I want to get everybody. Anybody else? Yeah. Thoroughly. And 2 of you go, be quiet. Be quiet. Move on if you just be quiet. No. What else? Say, funny?
Plain English.
Plain English.
Participate.
Participate. What else?
Patiently.
Patiently. Positively. You're doing a great job over there on that board. What else?
Persistent.
Persistent. Okay. Room this size, that piece takes what? It really only takes about 8 or 9 minutes. 8 or 9 minutes. And yet what have we done? It's a pretty good list? Right. And you can have a consensus on that list. Anybody desperately want to cut out anything on that list? Yeah.
Say it in Spanish.
Say it in Spanish? Say it comfortable. You're not a person that's out there. So if you're a manager or talking with each other, in order to draw that out, you really have to stay with it. I have to go another round asking you. And probably some of the ones, yeah, okay, I'll give you one. I can see how this goes. Nobody's going to die in this exercise around that. What I want you to think about is where you are on it, is how you feel about stepping forward. And do we lose your brains? Do we use your engagement at work? Because you do hang back. And you hang back a little too much. And you know that about yourself. And yet, do you want to change it a little bit? Others of you, let me talk, let me talk. You're always out there in front. You got a lot of people in back of you. Do you capitalize the conversations? Do you realize that a couple of people in the back might be saying, you know, maybe you could sit down for once? Are they in the room? You bet they're in the room. Why? Because we're all human. And we want you out there. We want you out there leading. But sometimes maybe you go a little bit too far. Where are you? That's a gap. What are you great at, and where do you need a little help at? Tremendous job. Thank you very much.